Habari. Welcome to Echoes of Childhood with your one and only beautiful host, Miss Kinyanjui. Karibu sana kwenye show ya kwanza katika mwaka huu wa 2026. And this is where we unwind the deepest, darkest memories that we have shared from our past and from our childhood. We bring it to the table and we learn how to heal from it. So remember, kama wewe ni mgeni hapa, don't forget to click that subscribe button and also to keep the notification bell active because we will be dropping show after show. So, karibu sana. So this week we'll be talking about the type of trauma. Now, in our past shows, we have been communicating about how trauma affects maybe a child, the loss of a father. We have been specifying them by parenthood. But this time we want to categorize these traumas in relationships. I know. Tunataka kutulete mambo ya mapenzi kwenye show, and I know I'm not the best person to talk about this, but I will try my level best to explain. So please grab a pen and a book because you have a lot. So onto the types of trauma. We have 4 types of trauma. Trauma number 1 will be rejection trauma, and then we will head on to abandonment trauma, and we will also tackle the betrayal trauma and humiliation trauma. So guys, I don't know if you've ever heard about this type of traumas, but I would really love to hear about it. So let's interact because this is a session where we would learn. On to the first one, rejection trauma. Now, rejection ni kukataliwa. Umekataliwa. Now, let's start from the childhood part. So, if you grew up as the only kid who was never accepted to the ground, the kid who felt they are never accepted in places, when you grow up as a person, you always feel like you're not enough. Okay? Na unapoenda kwenye relationship, there's so many things that you feel. Number 1, you feel jealousy. Unasikia wivu sana because umekatuna mtu hivi kidogo anaona mtu mwingine, there is just jealousy ambayo inakufuata kila mahali. Unaelewa? Number 2, you are always hurt. You always hurt. You ever hurt. Why? Because you were rejected in the childhood. So unapokuja kwa relationship, unataka to justify that gap that was left. Okay? Ile gap ambayo iliwachwa, you want to fill that gap. And the person who comes in your life, you want them to fill it fully, and maybe they cannot be able to fill the void fully. So during this process, you feel hurt. Okay? Also, now let me give you a certain scenario. If you're dating somebody who has gone through rejection akiwa dogo, so if you have late replies, maybe you were busy at work. Unajua kuna zile vitu niko busy sana kazini and I won't get the time to reply your text. So they start feeling like, I don't matter to them. Huyu anijali. And sijui kama mmejipata into this relationship, ama if you guys have seen these things happen with people where when one breaks up with somebody, they feel like they have lost their entire world. They feel rejected. They feel like they have done the worst thing ever. Now, let me take 1 second and talk about the man. Now, according to the reality of life, the most people who take rejection bad ni wanaume. A man comes, approaches you, and you're like, no, you know my type and everything. That's rejection. They don't take it well. Now, take the scenario of somebody ameishi kurejectiwa akiwa mdogo, and then you have rejected him. Mind you, you had a very good bond. You gave him comfortability. You showed him comfort. You gave him the warmth and the love to feel like I am in the best place. And then when they pull the plug, you just react and then reject. And because wewe mwenyewe hauna idea ya kwamba mtu alireject akiwa mdogo, you assume like he will take it nicely, but then later you come to realize this person either committed suicide, this person either went and did something bad. Now, how do we deal with these people ambao wamesuffer from rejection? Number one is, okay, this becomes very tricky kwa kila mtu, maanake unajua huyu anasema mimi sijui kuelewa mtu, mimi sijui kuelewa mtu, na inaeleweka. It is very understandable, but you have to understand themselves. Now, a trick that I normally use and I would like to share with you. Before I make somebody my friend, I really need to know how they deal with scenarios, because I will come and tell you, you know what, this and this happened to me. And then your reaction will explain to me. So you're a sort of person that I cannot break bad news to, because your reaction is very different. And there are those who are calm, there are those who overreact, there are those who take time before they react, and there are those who are startled. Okay, so dealing with these people who have suffered rejection trauma really needs a lot of wisdom, and it also needs a lot of grace. Let me tell you, it's a grace that comes from God. We normally tell people, like, talking to people takes grace, but also understanding people takes a lot of wisdom. The same thing nakwambia saizi, if you know you have a friend who has suffered rejection sometime back, don't judge them, because ni kitu wako nayo and they need help. They need people who will explain to them that you cannot get the whole world. I know you were rejected, and maybe when you go to a certain way, you feel a certain comfort, but remember, you can never have everything. You cannot say that nasikianga comfort nikiwa na Mercy, nasikianga comfort nikiwa na Waremo, and I want both of them. You have to lose one, okay? Also, if you know you are a person suffering from rejection trauma, I would ask you to work on three things. Number one, your anger, because people with rejection trauma have a lot of anger. Number two, make sure you socialize with the people who really matter. Let me repeat it again. Make sure you socialize with the people who really matter, because you will find yourself socializing with people who don't actually matter in your life, people who you don't matter in their life, and at the end of it all, you suffer because you're like, ni rafiki yangu, and then you're doing that. So, please, come on, if you have any other points to add, don't forget to mention pale in the comment section. Point number 2, abandonment trauma. Now, this comes from parental neglect. Mtoto kutoka alipozaliwa ama during the phase of growing, they feel neglected by their family. This comes because of abuse from one parent, leading to the other parent focusing on other things, and they tend to forget about their parents. Now, this kind of really happens to the last born kid, especially if kama mzazi, if there was a war between a mother and a father, baba anakuja anachapa mama, the firstborn adapts very fast to the situation. Now, the only thing they intend to do is to shield this other kid. And now, yeye ataelewa scenario, lakini last born hataelewa. Now, this kid will always feel, watu wengine wataishi kuishi, our dad did not love us, that was he always alikuwa anapiga mama. Mbona sisi alikuwa anatuambia sisi mzee this hapa madhe wakati tulikuwa wadogo. Also, it also comes to the firstborn, but it comes in another way, which will be a show for another day. And this thing also causes anxious attachment styles like hypervigilance. Somebody tends to be hypervigilant very much, and also they worry about their worthiness in relationships. Now, let's focus about abandonment in relationships. And wakati anapoingia kwenye relationship, they are so much attached. Wanakuwa so attached to you to an extent like ukose kupiga siku moja anajua umemwacha. So they start overreacting. They start feeling like they're not worthy. They start even hating themselves. Okay? So remember, this gets along. This also happens to rejection. But akifika nyepesi kwa abandonment, anakuanga ever obsessed to you. Now, sijui kama mmejipata to places, have you seen people in relationships where they are so obsessed about others, and you're wondering, jamani huyu nini. Na hizi scenario zinakuja ya kwamba anaweza chapwa, anaweza kuwa in a very toxic relationship, but the fear of being abandoned, it actually triggers a lot, such that they are not able to open their eyes and say, this is not a place I'm supposed to be. They tend, heri nikae hapa kuliko niache. I know, tunakanga hivi maybe as people, tunadiscuss, sasa ule sasa mbona anakaa pale hivyo kwa relationship. Now, we have to understand, because having to deal with these people, the only thing they need to feel is the love. That's simple. The only thing they need is to feel love. And when you may love them, you may be there for them too much, and they may be attached to you too much. Okay? So these are people, they have to be helped to navigate around love, and to be able to understand the levels and the natures of love. They are also supposed to be helped to understand when to say no, when to move out, because such people tend to suffer a lot in toxic relationships because they cannot leave. And the other spouse will be like, oh, hata nikimfanyia nini, hawezi toka. Tafakari hayo. Point number 3, betrayal trauma. Now, betrayal trauma has a similar effect to relationships like abandonment trauma. But let's discuss what is betrayal trauma. This is when you feel that you've been betrayed by the most trusted person in your life. Let's say your mother. Maybe your mom left you because the person in your mind whom you are ni mama yenu, but then she one day woke up and left. The trust gets lost. The same similarity, it may be the father. The father woke up one day and left you guys, and that thing literally triggers something that causes someone to feel it is too much to be independent, such that they lean into dependency. So the only thing they know, they cannot be able to survive alone. In short, najua nimebetraywa na watu wengi. Okay, so the only thing in my mind now is like me, I cannot be able to at this point, acha tu ni depend tu na huyu mtu mmoja, because mtu mmoja amenionyesha sitaipoteza trust, so ninakuja nitakaa na yeye, so next time that my eyes will be locked, I will suffer in the same scenario. I will suffer in toxic relationships, but I cannot be able to move out of them. Why? Because I trust them, and they have shown me they can never break my trust. Okay? So people suffering from betrayal trauma, they really need to be shown how to trust. And the moment they trust again, the problem comes in here. They start leaning into dependence. Okay? Number 2, in the same scenario, you will always find a person who has suffered from betrayal from the family, from friends, from people around them, to an extent that after a relationship, they will never trust you. I don't know, kama mmepata relationship, marriages actually, different people, they were so much in love, and people, we looked up upon them, but the only problem is that they do not have trust in each other, so they are always doubting each other, so that relationship or that marriage ends up in crash. Hello? So, how to deal with people suffering from betrayal trauma? Number 1, help them understand the different ways of trust. Help them understand how to measure trust. Do not overtrust people and do not undertrust people. I don't know if there are such words, lakini I hope mmeelewa venye nataka kumaanisha. Don't be overbearing. Usikuwe kila wakati you're easy to trust, because wewe unataka utrust. Wewe unaonekana ni kama kutrust mtu ilikuwa ngumu, but then people came around you and they showed you, we can trust you. So you are like, I want to be like them, and then you start overtrusting. Okay? So those people also who do not know how to trust, they also need to be helped to see another version of people. And I pray to God, especially to the people suffering from this betrayal trauma, that you meet people who will help you understand that there is also a world where you can trust people, and there is also a world where you can be loved and never be judged. I hope tumeelewana hapo, ndio. So far so good. What do you think? What do you think people suffering from betrayal trauma can be helped, or how they can be helped, please talk to us. Find me on my Instagram page at Madam Kinyanjui. SMS pale niambie Nancy. Hivi na hivi ndo nimekuwa nikipitia. How can you help? Humiliation trauma. Now, humiliation trauma typically comes from shame that you underwent through childhood, shame that you underwent maybe in high school, maybe in school, maybe at work, maybe with your friends, maybe with your loved ones. And starting from being bullied in high school or being bullied back in school, kubuliwa ulikuwa una feel, once you were bullied, you used to feel like your self-love in a decrease. You start seeing yourself like another person, you know. You used to say, I'm confident, I'm strong, hakuna mtu ataniambia. But the moment you're bullied, ile self-confidence inapokuwa. Okay. Now once it decreases, it leads to toxic shame and also people suffering alone. Sawa, every time uko na kila mtu unakaa hivi unatembea unaona mtu anakuangalia uko like why are they looking at me. Let me talk to the big let me actually this is a very perfect example. Acha tuongelele the ladies ambao God ametubariki na miili mikubwa. And let me tell you, this is something you're supposed to love yourself about. Now maybe at childhood watu walikuwa wanakuita kanono ama they gave you other nicknames. And now since that very day, because you never accepted who you are, you never accepted, I am beautifully and wonderfully made. I am created by the image of my God. You will never, you grew up with that thing. Inakuja inakufollow up mpaka high school. So next thing, every time you pass around and people look at you, and maybe people are admiring your outfit, you start feeling like, wananiona mimi ni nono, wananiona mtu ni nini. So unapata mtu ameenda how do you say, people start self-serving, wengine wameanza kujiachilia because why? They don't want to be seen in public. They are suffering a lot toxicity. They have a lot of toxicity in shame. Sawa. Now, once they go through that, there are two ways people suffering humiliation trauma work. Number one, they move towards it. Number two, they move against it. Number one, so moving towards shame is trying to be what people want you to be. Watu waliniambia mimi ni mkonde sana, so and you know what, I should eat, I should go niende nifanye BBL, and I'm sorry kama kuna kufanya, I don't have against it, but you do not accept who you are. You do not accept how you are, how beautiful you are. Sometimes I come by video and I listen to most of my ladies, and you hear somebody say, my friend aliniambia sikai vizuri, I think I'm going to do plastic surgery, and I'm like, why do you have to do plastic surgery? Why? Why do you have to be ashamed of the body that God gave you? This is something they suffered back, but they have not healed from it. Now this thing affects every one of us. It affects us at a scale as imagine. There's something that happens to me at work, and I'm like, I'm ever humiliated. I will never learn from that. Okay? And so I try to be what people want me to be. Watu wanasema bila kama kasichana kangekuwa kanavaa hivi na maybe let me tell you, maybe sizo unaona ukikuwa na mfungo tofauti na you yourself you cannot. But because you want to people please, you start wearing short clothes. You start doing things that you are not supposed to do. You start doing things that you yourself don't feel peaceful. But because you want your friends, you want the world to see you as a better person, you do. Moving against shame. This is where people try to fight it. Now, people trying to fight shame tend to go through a lot of problems because the society will never accept it. So they lead to things we call like suicide. Na wanajipata wamefanya mambo mengi. So guys, I don't know how many of you suffer from abandonment trauma, rejection trauma, betrayal trauma, or humiliation trauma. I am here to tell you about this because no matter the trauma you are suffering through, there are ways to heal it. Number one, accepting who you are, where you were born, where you grew up with, accepting your weaknesses. Number two, figuring it out. Na nimeishi kuambia hii. I think I have said this in a couple of my shows that figuring who you are will take a lot of process, and figuring out yourself takes loneliness. You will never figure out yourself when you are in a group of people. That is a lie. That is a very big lie. Akinika hivi nisema kama nataka kujua I'm perfect to this, let me go with it. That is a very big lie, because it needs your thoughts together, it needs your peace of mind, it needs your accumulation, it needs a certain acceptance of who I am. By then mimi niko hivi na hivi na hivi. And let me tell you guys, if you try this, it is gonna help you. Point number 3, involve God. Involve God in everything. I have been talking ever since I posted the shows I have had, and I'm not a psychologist, but I have had DMs. I was telling them, nimekaiza masi nikakaiza nikarealize, by the way, nimepitia kitu fulani. By the way, if it's fulani ndio nafanya hivi. Okay? And the only way I was able to overcome it, I had to go find some time alone to myself. Na nikaanza kusema, na by the way ninapitia hiki na hiki. So what do? God help me in this. God help me in this. And then I tell myself, I'm gonna start loving myself. God, why don't you help me to love myself? Involving God will always help you. Involving God will always help you. Number 4, reach out to people. You can reach out to professionals. It doesn't have to be a person you know. Let me share a trick. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you cannot tell anybody who doesn't know you, ingia kwa basi, a random person, open up. Whatever advice they give you, take it and leave. Their judgment doesn't concern you. You have opened up yourself, now talk. Try this, guys, with our idea. Okay? Try this 4 things and they will help you. Because I know we are creating a generation where we have strong and powerful women, wise women, but all we need is to heal from our trauma. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, ukitaka kuniongelesha nipate pale Instagram at Madam Kinyanjui. Sisi niambie unataka tuongelesho gani, ama do you have any issue? Also remember to follow me at TikTok at Miss Salmi Blessed. Don't forget to share this video, comment, like, and subscribe. Well, hey, tupatane next time, same place.